Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. With a wealth of experience in business and in life, plus an 8-figure exit, Tracy Clark emerges as a beacon of light for visionary founders from around the world to transform their lives and businesses to create massive impact. Join us today as we explore the link between zone of genius and confidence. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tara. I've been very excited about joining you. And as we start, I just want to say I'm just such a fan of all your work and a big fan of your book. So I recommend it to everyone. One of my top favorites.
You are my number one promoter in England. So I love it. Thank you so much. You know, it started off as a book. It started off as a conversation you and I had over Zoom and began a relationship. We met in person in London. And you've since bought the book, Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power, and given it to so many of your friends. So thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
Yes. So zone of genius and confidence. We've heard those terms separately. I don't know if I've ever heard any conversation talk about the link between them. And it's fascinating to me. I love it. Tracy, talk to us a little bit about zone of genius. What is it? Why is it important? And then maybe some other questions too, because I know as we talk, we'll have a lot of things come to mind. But let's talk about zone of genius. What does it mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tara. And I hear other people talk about the zone of genius. And when they do, they're really alluding to the fact that it's where your zone of excellence, where what you're really good at and what you love, where there's the harmony, a blend between those two. But what I've seen is while those two areas are really the core, it's also absolutely essential to integrate other elements into them. And, the other elements are that there's a sense of alignment, that what you're good at and what you find energetic is aligned with your vision, with your values. And we're going to talk about this quite a lot, linked to the confidence, that your concept of yourself is aligned with the vision that you want to create there. So we're making sure we've got this alignment. And when you feel that, you feel this sense of authenticity, which I believe is linked to confidence. And then we're integrating this even more. We're taking the top 20% from what I'm good at, what energizes me, what's in my zone of alignment. And then we're looking at what makes the biggest difference to my life, to my business. What is it that actually moves the needle? So we're integrating all of this. And then, Tara, the important thing for me to emphasize is that the zone of genius is not static. It's one that's expandable. So what we do is we take this area of excellence, impact, energy, and alignment, and then we look at how do I expand this? What might be holding me back from really stepping up my zone of genius and stepping up my zone of impact? And that's where it links to confidence, because for me, it's absolutely fundamental to realize we're not fixed in our abilities, and things that have maybe seemed like weaknesses can actually become our strength when we go in and we explore and we uncover and we realize that it might just be beliefs that are holding us back.
Ooh, now you just hit on something. Those limiting beliefs that hold us back. How often do we meet very intelligent people, people that blow us away with their intellect, with their knowledge, with their skills, but something, some limiting belief is telling them that they're not worthy, that they're not correct, that they're an imposter.
Completely, Tara. And I think that's what's so fascinating, isn't it? You see this person who should be capable of this impact, but yet there's a gap. And they're falling short. And it is, you're right, it's those limiting beliefs they have. And those limiting beliefs are linked to the concept that they hold of themselves. And the zone of genius, if I go back, isn't just about what you do in your mindset. It's about who you're being. It's about your identity. That is at the core. So then when we look at these people with these limiting beliefs, when you zoom in, what you often find is that those limiting beliefs are around the concept they hold of themselves. And you're never going to outperform that concept that you've got of yourself. So that's why in the zone of genius, we're going to the heart, we're looking at the identity, and then the mindset, and then the actions.
Wow. I mean, you're describing the holistic approach, right? That I believe that just, we can have 80% and still not make it because maybe it's those fundamental things haven't been addressed. And I think you're so spot on. How many of us could get to that next level of success if we, developed different beliefs about ourselves and stop self-excluding, stop being the reason, right? That we can't go to that next level or, something like that. It's fascinating to me.
It really is. It really is, Tara. And I think that what it is a lot of people are running this programming in the background, shall we say. And they're not even aware of some of those scripts that they're running of, I'm not good enough, or really where that's coming from. And they're not aware of the fact that they can shift that. And that's where we need to step in to really show people that, as you talk about in your book as well, you can create that future version of yourself that is aligned with the impact that you want to create. And then you can start to bring that to life. Because actually this self-concept, we can shift in a heartbeat when we want to. And that's what we need to remember. But people have, again, the belief, oh, I'm just that way, I'm set that way. You're not. With help and with guidance, you can shift from the autopilot to intentionality and become this confident self.
I love that. And it's that intentionality, right? But finding that alignment, finding that clarity, what do you see your future self as? That's an interesting thing that you brought up about that aspect of the book. That's one of the people that ask me the most amount of questions about the book ask me the questions about having gratitude for your future self. That seemed like a foreign concept to a lot of people, but it's being able to envision something so clearly with such depth of clarity that you're already grateful for it, as if it's present in your current life. That's powerful, right?
That is powerful. And I think just a nuance there that I see some people do the visualization, but then they come away and they go, but it doesn't work. And you hit it on the head there by saying you need to bring it to life. So I use the analogy of going to a cinema. You can be the observer watching the visualization on the screen in front of you, but you're detached. Or you can be the character in the movie who's living and feeling it, importantly, who's bringing this to life. And that is where the power happens. And that is where you start to shift your future self. And then when you're feeling it, you embed it, Tara, with the gratitude. And that deepens that feeling even more. And that's where the real power comes.
I love that. I love how you and I are so aligned with the gratitude aspect of it. It really is something that changes our lives, right? And I think people think that gratitude is a fleeting thing, but like you and I have talked about, there's levels of love, there's also levels of gratitude,
Mm.
and it can be deepened. And when it does, it strengthens us, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And I think, it's being grateful for every situation. And as you say in your book, you bring it up so beautifully. It's not being grateful for just everything that's wonderful in your life. It's seeing that every single experience is an opportunity to learn and to grow and to take that. And when you view it through the lens of gratitude, it's liberating rather than it holding that control over you that then limits you.
Yes, it's a way to forgive a past event, right? And it very much is, it's empowering to have gratitude. And, when we think about the zone of genius and having gratitude for our strengths, and then, like you touched on earlier, maybe your weaknesses are not truly weaknesses. Maybe they're just blockages. I'm curious about that because are there blockages that are preventing us from fully expressing our zone of genius, do you think?
100%. I think we all have some beliefs that we might not know are there, that we really need to dig into. And I'd say that in the process of discovering your zone of genius, you need to go on a journey of real reflection. And you also really need to think about that impact that you want to create, connect to the why behind it. What is that reason that you want to connect? You want to create that. And then start to see, well, to create that input, what else would I love to be able to do? And sometimes you notice, oh, I'd love to, for example, my area was, I'd love to be able to write a book. But then I have this little memory in my head of when I was 6, taking an entrance exam to a school and had to write a story and completely screwing up the story, being told, you're not very good at writing. Now that stuck with me until I started to think, that's just a belief. And actually, when I'm talking to people, I see that the ideas are there. And now I'm leaning into it. And from having not enjoyed it, Tara, I'm now loving it. And I'm finding that the act of writing is not only liberating, but it's also helping me to get a depth of clarity in the area of the zone of genius, which in turn is helping me to have more impact. So there we see the direct correlation of something which was there, but I hadn't quite clocked what an impact it was having. And now by coming in, realizing it was just a belief, bringing it into awareness and going, actually, I know that to create my impact, this is what I'm called to do. And actually, this is what I'd love to do. And yes, I am getting some help in terms of developing this, but boy, it is incredible. And I'm surprising myself every single day.
Absolutely. That is such a remarkable story. Taking those areas in our life where we thought we were weak. And I had a similar experience with writing. I had a similar experience with public speaking, as you and I know. And you know what? I faced those fears and realized that those were narratives that I had heard in the past and from childhood, long ago, longer than we want to admit, right? But long ago. And they stuck with us and became a belief. It was someone else's belief of us that was planted like a seed in our minds, took root, and became a belief system.
Yes.
Wow.
Took root and became a belief system, Tara, that then has become an integral part of your identity.
Wow.
And that identity is the source of results. I often hear people saying, no, Tracy, it's about the action and then it's about the mindset. Yes, they are really key ingredients, but the source of your results, the source of your confidence, the source of your impact is your identity. That's why we need to go there. When we create that version of ourselves without these stories and these narratives, then our thinking, our feelings, our actions, our interactions, and our results become completely different.
Yes.
And that's where the power is.
Yes.
And that is what's not known. And I suspect, Tara, when you get people asking you about your future self and the gratitude around it, it's probably them not appreciating the power of their future self combined with the power of the gratitude. They are a mighty combination.
A mighty combination. It signifies to yourself too that it's possible. If you can be grateful for something that you are yet to receive, I feel like that is programming you to believe that it will happen.
Yes.
Right? And you know what? The beautiful thing about it is it costs nothing. It, again, requires no additional resources or money. Try it. Just try it. And let me know how it goes, because I guarantee you, your belief systems are going to start to change. It begins with that gratitude. And we know that gratitude rewires our brains. And if we can rewire our brains, we can form new belief systems.
Absolutely. And if we can rewire our brain, and also with the gratitude, we're bringing that feeling, we're getting that feeling to be alive. We're living it and experiencing it. And all there is now. So we're literally programming the now and our awareness of ourselves with this element of ourself. And this is what I do with the founders. I get them to constantly upgrade their identity. So we talk about Tara level, 1.0. And then we look at, okay, what's the level of Tara 2.0, who's in your case now, who's done the TED Talk? And we would be creating that shift and really leaning into what's the difference in the version? How is that version of Tara showing up? And then we go level 3.0. And what I'm seeing is, as you consciously and intentionally shift and upgrade your identity, then your results massively change. I mean, I've got one client who's sold millions in pre-product revenue just from doing this exercise, starting more and more, 2 or 3 more companies, getting funding for them. It's all a question of shifting that version of him.
Wow.
I do it. He does it. It works. And we need to just really realize that there is a power there.
Yes, yes. And, a lot of people ask, what is it going to take to get me there? What are the steps? And they start to talk themselves out of things, don't they? But it's, who are you willing to become to make sure it gets done? Right? Who are you willing to become? Because we know it's going to take, like you said, maybe an upgraded version of ourselves. Let's face it, we all have bad habits, right?
We do.
We all do. Nobody's perfect. But to get to that, I like that level up. And it's a stair approach. It's not, here's your North Star, figure it out. It's, here's a level up from where you are now. Let's get there, then the next level, and so on. And it's much more approachable and doable, it sounds like.
And I love the phrase, the question you asked, who are we willing to become?
Yeah.
Because there is an element of courage also to step out of your comfort zone and that version of yourself that okay, they might not be getting the results you want, but there's a comfort in that discomfort. And it takes courage. It takes courage, Tara, to put the mirror up at yourself and to look at, okay, what are the results saying about me? What is my life telling me about me? And sometimes we can look on the outside and we can see it. Other times we do need some help. We need some help from someone to build self-awareness. and to put that mirror up. And that can be uncomfortable as you find out truths about or things that you've been living out that are uncomfortable. And I use this phenomenal tool called an Enneagram, and it has a tremendous level of depth about your fears, your motivations being key. And it highlights your blind spots. And I see people become uncomfortable as we come to the blind spots. And they're like, Tracy, that's not me. But actually, when they own it and they realize that it's okay, we all have some elements that we're blind to and that might be tripping us up, then you give yourself the freedom to change. And then you realize that it's easier to change. And I think that helps you become willing to take that next step.
Yes. And we can't manage what we don't measure. You have to have that acknowledgement, that baseline. Otherwise, how can you manage it? How can you increase it? How can you make it better? Right?
Mm-hmm.
There are blind spots for everyone. I have plenty of them, I'm sure, but
we all do.
We all do. It's okay. What's not okay is ignoring it and staying the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another point we were talking about just before we came online, Tara, was that one of the elements that can really help us build confidence and also help us expand this zone of genius is playfulness. I think sometimes we just take life a little bit too seriously. And actually, sometimes when we step into the zone of being playful, then it can be liberating. And I love to do this with founders who set up their company, but they realize they might not be as great a leader as they know that they can be. So their confidence is lacking there. But when we start to play games and I say to them, okay, rather than going in on transmit to deliver messages, why don't you set a context and then imagine that you're playing poker. Imagine that you've got five chips in your hand. And during this hour meeting, you can only say 5 things. So think about, what are the questions I could ask that's going to unlock my team? And people love that. And they come out and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I could do it. But actually, by being playful and having that approach, they come out more confident. And then they're expanding their zone of genius because they're realizing the better the leader I become, then the more I can delegate and I can step into my own zone of genius.
Yeah, and it allows that person to embrace their authenticity as well, like we talked about earlier. Because we're not robots. We weren't designed to be. We were designed to be playful, right? And I mean, so much of our childhood is spent in play. And then what happens as soon as we become adults? We become what, robots? That shouldn't change that much, right? We can incorporate play and joy and things like this into the workspace. And you know what? People actually respond to that because it makes it more engaging. It makes it more fun. And ultimately, you're seen as a more authentic leader.
Completely. And I think you can take that playfulness as well to what we were saying about going to the cinema and being in the movie and playing, what else would I be experiencing, and imagining those scenarios. And that just brings it to life. So yes, let's all embrace playfulness. And I'd invite everyone on the call to think about, how could I be more playful in my life? And what impact would that have on me, but also those around me?
Yes. I love that.
That's a fun question.
It is a fun question. So I want anybody who's watching this or listening to this on the podcast to really explore what their zone of genius is, what really makes them feel alive, what makes them feel really confident. Start leaning into those things, asking some introspective questions and figuring out how we can incorporate that more into our lives. And if our lives are not aligned with that, how can we make our lives aligned with it so that we feel purposeful, intentional, fulfilled? As far as zone of genius goes, there's a lot of different types of genius. How does one look at it and understand where they fit into that mix? What's a good step?
I think I would say start with what when you look back at your achievements, where have you excelled? And start to see naturally where you're going.
Mm.
For some people, it can be very much around the social. For others, I've got one gentleman who's just so highly commercial. He's able to see technologies and join the dots and know how to make these things commercial. For others, you see it that their zone of genius is in the technical. So really look at that and think about, when am I at my best? When do I feel most alive? And when am I showing up and being the most impactful version of myself? So it really takes a lot of self-reflection. Would be my thought. And just linking back to the other point you said before about people exploring their zone of genius, explore, what am I doing? What am I thinking when I'm in that zone of genius? How am I thinking? And then really think about, how am I showing up when I'm creating that impact? What are the qualities that I'm showing? Because it's really crucial to look on those 3 layers rather than just on the action side.
Yes, that is so crucial. Because if we just take action without identifying any of this stuff, what could happen? It could be a lot of wasted activity, a lot of time, and ultimately that's not a strategic approach. And you could also start to feel like a failure because you're putting in action, maybe the cart before the horse type of thing, and just setting that intentionality first and getting some clarity maybe as well.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point as well, Tracy, have that holistic strategic approach, really listening to what you're good at, what you're naturally interested in, what makes you feel alive, what makes you feel purposeful. And then ultimately how you can take that gift, that genius, and create a business out of it, create impact out of it, that you can help other people as well live better lives.
Exactly. How can you create mastery in that area? And it's really, as the founder, looking at, what is my particular area of genius? And then how can I hire people around me that complement me, and where I can get them to zone in to their zone of genius? When we get a team that's all in their zone of genius, and those zone of geniuses complement each other, that's how we're going to go further. You've got levels of fulfillment and levels of fulfillment that are high, and confidence. And that's incredibly important, because clients feel that, don't they? Yeah. When you go on a call or you're interacting with your team and you're feeling really good and energized about what you do, doesn't that rub off on the person you're with? I think it does.
I think as well, absolutely. And I see it as gears in an engine, right? Where if one gear is not there, it doesn't quite flow. We have to have all the gears and their individual moving parts help orchestrate more movement down the line. And when we find our own, focus on that self-discovery aspect of it, and then figure out who would be a good fit for this area that I'm not proficient at, and who could I find and align in this other area, and we come together as one moving piece toward an achievable goal. And you know what? We just keep going in that direction. That's inspirational.
It really is. And I love the word alignment that you used there. And I think it's getting people who are good at different things, but aligned on the vision and the values. And that's where this zone of genius can be used not only on an individual basis, but also on a company basis. And alignment is one of the absolutely fundamental areas that will lead to confidence in the team and also confidence in the market, where the market's going, oh yes, there's complete congruence here and they know what they're doing. So
Alignment with values and vision. That is perfect. I liken it to a car. And I always say that the driver, it should be the values, right?
I think so.
Yes, the driver should be the values. And when the values are the driver, clients feel it, the world feels it, internally it's felt. You as a manager, as a leader, feel it on your team. It's felt, and it's that resonating impact, and it starts, that driving force is values. It's so key. I love that.
Absolutely. And I think underneath it's values, and I think the curiosity and the commitment to become that best version of yourself. I think that is when you align values, and maybe that's one of the values, but the real determination and commitment to become that best and to add as much value as possible. That's game changing.
Game changing. I love that. Tracy, I know everybody is going to want to work with you after this, because who wouldn't? Where's the best place to find you and to learn more about what you do?
LinkedIn is the best place for me.
Yes.
So do join me, and maybe we can put a link in to my LinkedIn in the comments.
Absolutely. I will make sure all of your links are available. But work with Tracy. She is a visionary person. She's a game changer. And talk about somebody who has done it and helps others do it too. So she walks the walk, talks the talk. This is the type of person any business leader and founder needs to work with. So highly recommend.
And what I'd say is I'm really, my approach is very much about adding value and building relationships. So I would be really delighted if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, do reach out, and I'd be absolutely delighted to give you a complimentary session where we just talk about your zone of genius and how you can identify it and what those areas are that you could do with leaning into. So there's an offer from me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you for everyone who tuned in to season 2 of Grasp Confidence Podcast. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you, Tara.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.